Hi, and welcome back to Reddit Terrible Stories. I refused to give the dog back to my sister, even though she was the one who gifted it to me. When my sister gave me the dog as a birthday gift, it was supposed to be a symbol of our bond, a gesture of love, and a new chapter for both of us. At the time, I was in a dark place, struggling with loneliness and burnout from work, and she thought a dog might be the light I needed. She picked out a golden retriever puppy from a reputable breeder, paid the fees, and placed him in my arms with the words, "Happy birthday, he's yours now." That puppy, whom I named my dog, changed everything. He became my best friend, my morning motivation, and my evening comfort. Over time, we built a rhythm-long walks, training sessions, lazy Sundays with his head on my lap. He brought structure, joy, and purpose into my life. So when, a year and a half later, my sister called me crying, asking if she could have my dog back because her boyfriend had left and she felt empty, I didn't know how to respond. At first, I thought she was joking. She wasn't. She insisted that since she had originally bought him, he was still technically her dog. And now that she needed comfort, she deserved to have him. But by then, my dog wasn't just a pet to me. He was family. I told her no as gently as I could, explaining that he had become an essential part of my life, that he depended on me now, just as much as I depended on him. But she wasn't having it. She accused me of being selfish, of choosing a dog over my own sister, and I reminded her that she had given him to me unconditionally, that she had signed over the papers and said he was mine, and that gifts don't come with expiration dates or return clauses. She hung up on me, furious, and I tried to let it go. But the next week she showed up at my apartment unannounced, knocking on my door and calling his name, trying to get him excited so he'd come with her, and I had to physically step in front of her to stop her from entering my home, telling her that what she was doing was not okay, that she was trying to take away something that wasn't hers anymore. She left in tears again. And later that night, I got a barrage of texts from our parents, telling me I was being cruel, that she had just gone through a breakup and needed support, that giving her the dog back was the least I could do. But none of them had ever been there, through the rough months when I was adjusting, through the accidents on the carpet, the chewed-up shoes, the nights when he barked nonstop because he was scared, and I didn't yet know how to calm him. They hadn't built the relationship. I had. I raised him. I trained him. I gave him love every single day. I took him to the vet, fed him high-quality food, played fetch with him at the park, and tucked him in at night, so how could anyone possibly expect me to just hand him over now, like he was some object to be passed around whenever someone's heart got broken? I tried to explain all of this calmly, rationally, but my sister kept escalating. She started posting on social media, writing these dramatic stories about how I had stolen her dog, how blood doesn't mean anything when someone chooses a mutt over family. And people began messaging me, some defending me, others calling me heartless. One even said, "I hope someone takes something you love away from you," which chilled me because that's exactly what she was trying to do. And for a while I debated if I should just give in, just to make it stop. But every time I looked at my dog curled up at my feet, every time he followed me into the kitchen or brought me his leash with those hopeful eyes, I knew I couldn't, because he didn't understand all the human drama. He just knew I was his person and he was mine, and taking him away from that would have been cruel to both of us. So I made the decision to draw a hard boundary. I blocked her for a while, ignored the texts, the calls, the mutual friends trying to mediate, and I focused on my little family, just me and him. We went hiking more. I taught him new tricks. We spent quiet evenings together, and I began to heal from the stress of the whole situation. Then one day, a mutual cousin reached out and told me my sister had adopted a new puppy, a different T-breed, a little lab named Daisy, and she seemed to be channeling all her energy into this new dog. And part of me was relieved, the other part angry that it had to go this far, that she couldn't just understand from the beginning that what's given with love should not be taken back out of pain. Months passed, things quieted down, and eventually we started talking again, carefully, awkwardly, like strangers relearning a familiar language. She never directly apologized, but one day she said, "I didn't realize how much he meant to you." And that was enough for now. We're still rebuilding, but my dog is still with me. still snoring at my feet as I write this, still wagging his tail when I walk through the door, and no matter what anyone says, I know I did the right thing. I know I protected what mattered. Not just a dog, but loyalty, love, and the kind of bond that doesn't get undone just because someone changed their mind. After that turning point, life settled into a rhythm again. One that was quieter, healthier, less clouded by the emotional tug of war I'd been caught in. And though I was glad to have peace, the scars of what had happened didn't disappear overnight. I found myself hesitating every time I got a message from a family member, wondering if it would reopen old wounds, but most of them seemed to have let it go, or at least accepted that the situation wasn't going to change. They stopped pushing, stopped asking when I was going to give the dog back, and slowly the air cleared. My sister even sent me a photo of Daisy once, the puppy she had adopted, and while it wasn't quite an apology, it felt like an olive branch, a subtle way of saying she'd moved on, that maybe she understood now that what she had tried to do wasn't fair. I responded with a picture of my dog napping on the couch, wrapped up in his favorite blanket, and she reacted with a heart emoji, which, for her, was monumental. We didn't talk often, but when we did, it was civil, surface level, careful. I didn't bring up the past, and neither did she. We both seemed to know that digging into it wouldn't help anything, that some things were better left buried if we wanted to rebuild something of a relationship. Meanwhile, my dog continued being the one constant I could rely on, his presence grounding, his routine soothing, his love uncomplicated and steady in a way human relationships rarely are. And there were nights I sat on the couch with him beside me, his head in my lap, thinking about how close I'd come to losing him, how easily guilt and family pressure could have overridden what I knew in my gut was right. And I was grateful I'd stood my ground, even when it made me the villain in some people's eyes. Over time, I stopped defending myself, stopped explaining the whole saga, when people asked why I didn't just give him back. Because the people who mattered either already knew or didn't need to know. And those who judged from the outside never really cared about the truth anyway. My dog and I had built something real, and I refused to let temporary chaos tear that apart. We went on road trips, discovered new parks, even spent a week camping together where he chased butterflies and I watched the stars. And it was during one of those quiet moments, sitting by the fire with him curled beside me, that I realized something important. Not all families are built from blood. Some are chosen, earned, nurtured over time, and sometimes they come in the form of a dog who trusts you with every fiber of his being, who looks at you like you're his whole world. And that trust is sacred. I don't know what the future holds between me and my sister. Maybe one day we'll talk about it properly. Maybe we won't. But I hope she's learned what I had to learn too, that love is not about possession or control or fixing loneliness with someone else's happiness. It's about respect, about honoring the choices we make and the bonds we form, and never trying to undo them just because we feel sad or lost. And if she has truly found peace with Daisy, then I'm happy for her, sincerely. But my home, my life, my days, they still belong to the dog she once gave me, the one I refused to give up, the one who chose me right back, and for that, I have no regrets. Seasons passed and the world shifted around us, but inside my home, that quiet sanctuary where fur clung to the furniture and the sounds of paws tapping across wooden floors echoed like a heartbeat, nothing really changed. He got older, of course. His muzzle grayed, his energy dipped, but the loyalty in his eyes never faded. I adjusted to his pace, not the other way around, and I think that's what love looks like sometimes. Not demanding more, but giving more. I took joy in the small things, the way his tail still wagged when I walked through the door, the way he snored louder than any human I knew, the way he trusted me completely, even as his vision blurred and his joints stiffened, and I knew, deep down, that one day I'd have to face life without him, that this chapter would close whether I was ready or not. But I also knew I wouldn't face it with regret, because I had chosen him every single day since the moment he entered my life. And when the day finally came, when he lay down a morning and didn't get up again, I held him through every moment, whispered that he was loved, that he was safe, that I would never forget what he gave me. And when the silence finally fell, it was complete, shattering, endless. I buried him in the backyard, under the tree he loved to nap beneath, placed his favorite toy beside him, and cried until the stars came out. The house felt emptier than I thought possible, like a song without melody, a book missing its ending. But as the days turned into weeks and the grief dulled from a sharp stab to a heavy ache, I started to find peace again. I printed photos of our adventures, framed them, filled the walls with memories that refused to fade. And when friends came over, they'd point and smile, ask stories, and I'd tell them all, every ridiculous, heartwarming, chaotic moment. I never got another dog. Not because I didn't want to, but because that kind of bond only happens once, if you're lucky. And I had been lucky despite everything. I'd been blessed beyond measure. And as for my sister, we talk more now, not often, but genuinely. And sometimes she asks about him, about what he was like in the end, and I tell her, without bitterness, without resentment, because I don't need an apology anymore, I have something stronger. I have peace, I have memory, and I have the unshakable truth that I stood my ground, protected something precious, and honored a gift that turned into something no one could have predicted, something permanent, because love, real love, doesn't demand you give it back when it's inconvenient. And I loved that dog with everything I had, and he loved me right back until the very last moment, and that was enough.